Hey everyone, this is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology. Happy Monday, everybody. Today we are going to take a look at one of the biggest transits of the week. There are several, but one of them, which is coming by Wednesday, August 10th, is the square between the Sun in Leo and Uranus in the sign of Taurus. Now, you might be asking at the start of this week why we are not beginning with an exploration of Venus opposite Pluto, which is also happening on August 9th. So that's tomorrow. The reason for that is that I visited it in preview last week. So if you are jonesing for some information about Venus opposite Pluto today, go back to last week and rewatch that video or watch it for the first time if you haven't. That should give you really good coverage for tomorrow's Venus-Pluto opposition. Just in case you're wondering why we didn't start the week there, we're starting the week with Sun square Uranus, which is coming by Wednesday. You should already be in the throes of Venus opposite Pluto. It's been building in over the weekend. Today, we're going to look at a transit that is taking hold as the week goes on, kind of doing it in that order. We might end up looking at Venus opposite Pluto again tomorrow. I'm still debating it, so we'll see. But so before we get into it today, don't forget to like and subscribe and share your comments. When you do that, it helps the algorithm tell people about the channel somehow. So really appreciate it when you guys do that. You can always find a transcript of the daily talks that I'm giving on my YouTube channel at my website, which is www.nightlightastrology.com. We are almost to the point where we will be offering 2 new courses, and we're having about a month-long pre-registration sale. It'll be 3 or 4 weeks long. And we thought it would be launching this week. It's going to be next week. And that is just due to how much goes into course launching. It's a big process, and we're just making sure everything is set up perfectly so that we don't get a million emails with the same glitch in terms of how the process works. So we're starting a 2023 moon circle. My wife and I, Ashley, will be leading, and that is a new and full moon gathering every month for 2023, where we'll be looking at the astrology of the month in depth, as well as working with different herbal plant teachers, plant spirit medicine throughout the year, pairing those together and kind of trying to utilize the astrology for the sake of personal growth and transformation, healing, whatever your intentions might be. So that will be one of the courses. The other one is a masterclass series that I'm launching. So there's 4 there's going to be 1 masterclass per quarter in 2023 on specialized topics in astrology that I'll be giving. Those are 4-part series at 4 different times of the year, 4 different topics. So both of those will be available pre-registration next week as well. And I'm just kind of sneak previewing it this week. I'll take you through how to sign up. Everything will be launched by by next week in terms of being able to sign up and get the initial sale discount and stuff like that. We'll have need-based tuition, of course, for people who may need that as well. All right. Well, before we get into it here, I also want to bring up the real-time clock and just show you the Sun square to Uranus. Here it is on the big screen. So you can see it there. And let's point it out. So here we have the Sun at 18 degrees of Leo. You have Uranus at 18 degrees of Taurus. And we have a square between them. And that square is perfecting Wednesday. So as we're looking at this on Monday, the square is several degrees away from perfecting, but it's within that 3-degree range. The 3-degree engagement range is typically when you really start feeling it. And then about 3 degrees after takes us into the weekend. So this week is the week of the Sun square to Uranus. And at the very beginning of the week, you can also see here is on Monday, you can see that Venus is going through the opposition to Pluto, and that goes from Monday into Tuesday, August 8th and 9th. So again, if you want more on the Venus-Pluto opposition, go back to last week's video that I did on Venus and Pluto. You'll find it not too far back in the recent videos on my page. Okay, so today what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at, I always have some combination of themes and sometimes lessons that I think go along with the transit. Today, it's 5 themes that can, I think, adequately capture some of the archetypal combination of the Sun and Uranus, and then 3 lessons that I think go along with these themes. And these are the kinds, so the themes come from experience, clients, students, life, working with the planets over time. And then in every transit, it feels like I'm seeing new themes that I may not have seen before. But then the 3 lessons are really, what do I see people learning when I'm talking to my clients in every day? I see clients Monday through Fridays. Whenever I work with clients and they're going through a Sun Uranus transit, like transiting Uranus is hitting the Sun in their chart, what are they learning? So these lessons are also applicable to us, even if we're just experiencing the Sun square Uranus for a week. There's still lessons that are sort of in the air. Now, these are not all of the lessons or anything like that. They're just 3 that I think are important. And as always, I really encourage you guys to share your stories. I learn a ton from hearing what you guys are learning. You can always share your stories by using the hashtag grabbed, or emailing your story into us, grabbed@nightlightastrology.com. By the way, if you send us a story to the info email address, we don't read them. They just get cataloged right into, we send them over, we forward them over to the other one, where eventually I look through and read and then catalog for a grabbed episode. Just so you guys know that I don't, it's nothing personal. I literally have an assistant who just sends any grabbed emails that are coming to the wrong email address over to the other one. So, all right, 5 themes for the Sun and Uranus. Number 1, there was a passage that really grabbed my attention when I first started studying Hellenistic astrology. It came from the Roman astrologer Vettius Valens, who was himself a compiler of ancient source texts that predated him by hundreds of years. In that text, in the first pages, he talks about, he gives breakdowns of the planets and their meanings. And one of the ways he describes the Sun is in terms of the word Daimon. Now, if you attended the summer speaker series, you might have heard my good astrology buddy Sean Nygaard give a talk on the Daimon and the role that the Daimon plays in astrology and the birth chart. The Daimon is sort of like a guardian spirit, a spirit guide, but it's more than that. Vettius Valens describes the Sun as conjuring up, sort of seducing the soul with like lovely images that draw its attention, that capture the imagination, and that stir up action and activity. We are compelled by the things that we fall in love with imaginally. So, for example, Sean, my buddy Sean, and I went to Minnesota Twins baseball game, and I was telling him about what it is about baseball that has always attracted me, especially the ballpark. There's something about the ballpark as an archetypal experience. It's always just, it's an image that compels me. And so that image of the green grass and the stadium lights and the people and the smell of popcorn and that whole thing, and the uniforms and the shape of the baseball diamond, the pitch, the sound of the bats. I played baseball as a kid, but there's something about baseball that it has a nostalgic hold on my imagination. It's something that grips me. And then what does it do? It compels me to go to the ballpark. Since I was a little boy, every year of my life, I've pretty much always gone to baseball games during the summertime, because it's something that has captured the soul speaks in images. This is something that Sean was talking about in his webinar on the Daimon. And for Vettius Valens, the Daimon, the Sun in the chart, is related to that golden, beautiful image that lives, its imaginal image, not just like, oh, I want an Atari. I remember that when I was in like first grade, all I wanted was an Atari. But it's not just that. It's the whole tapestry, the imaginal tapestry of something that we become attracted to. We get like the Bugs Bunny eyes, remember? Or is it, I don't remember who it is. Then he falls in love with, Mrs. Bunny or whatever, and he gets the heart eyes, and then he just starts floating toward her. Like we're compelled, and our lives are lived by these images that we're attracted to. And for Vettius Valens, that was part of what the sun signified, was the way that the course of action in life will be shaped by the images that we are attracted to. So that's one of the ways that in my programs, I teach us to read the placement of the sun in the birth chart for clients. And there's a whole lot that we unpack around that. Well, so that's just a little treatment of the sun and Daimon and the sense of an image that compels action, that drives the plot line of life. And not just one plot line, but so many. Uranus is, if you think of Uranus with some interesting adjectives, and I think of Uranus as a swerve rather than a nice sweeping narrative arc. It's real swervy and erratic and eccentric in its orbit. Uranus defies expectation. Uranus does not like the status quo. It revolts against habituation. Uranus breaks things that are sacred if it's holding us back somehow from the new, a new frontier, a new experience, a new invention, a new idea. Uranus is disruptive and doesn't obey the kind of norms or rules or structures or traditions. It tends to go outside of them, and sometimes with violence and even destructiveness. The revolution is not always pretty. So there's an iconoclasm, you could say, with Uranus. Well, when you take the idea of the image that the sun presents to us for the course of life, many images over the course, like think of your sun sign and all the tapestry of different things that you've been compelled by that relate to that mandala of the sun in Virgo or the sun in Leo or whatever it might be. When the sun and Uranus get into a square, remember, squares are of the nature of Mars, so they're contentious. The image is being challenged. We may need to break the image, or the image may be getting broken by some unexpected swerving force. There's something erratic that's disrupting an ideal, a noble pursuit, a vision, an imaginal compulsion that we have. And so when those two things come together, it's like it's sort of in the air that, the plot line the script can get flipped somehow. So breaking the image is one of the themes. Now that could be really, it can be very mundane. It's like we can't expect Uranus to be not participating in the mundane world. And so an appreciation for Uranus within the mundane is necessary. Otherwise, you'll miss it and you'll only think that Uranus shows up in really operatic ways. But nonetheless, went to the baseball game, saw Mars and Uranus, were conjoining when we went to the baseball game. And the game ended with a walk-off home run in the bottom of the 10th inning. It was electrifying, a kind of an unexpected ending. The crowd was sort of in a lull because the home team, Minnesota Twins, weren't doing so well. And then all of a sudden there's electrifying walk-off home run. Well, it's not like the world's most Uranian thing, but it was a small dose of what Mars and Uranus are like. The sun and Uranus are a bit like that, but usually when it comes to things like our sense of destiny or purpose or the images that compel us and as a byproduct give us a sense of purpose or calling. So watch for the breaking of the image, the destruction of an old image and the need for a revising or reconstruction or something like that. Number 2 is closely related, which is to be captured by the image. This is suddenly the thing that swerves doesn't interrupt the path you're on or interrupt or amend or challenge the images that you love, but rather introduces one that you weren't expecting, you didn't see coming. It's a curveball, using baseball analogies metaphors today, I guess. It's a curveball that comes in with an image attached to it. So now suddenly I'm caught by an eccentric orbit and a new image that's come in completely unexpectedly. Now that could be the breaking of the image, but it's not necessarily the same thing. There can be something like the shattering of an image, and that's it. It's there to dismantle an image that I'm no longer going to be attracted to this. It's no longer compelling me. somehow my love or my heart following a certain path is gone because of events that swerve me off that path. But then the other one that comes in is the curveball or the unexpected image that suddenly shows up and captures our imagination, our heart, our soul, and says, go this way. Wow, that was out of left field. That was not expected. So number 3 is fool's gold. Now, the other thing that happens is there's a little bit of a manic feeling. It's like after you have 3 cups of coffee in the morning when you usually only have 1, and suddenly you get this great idea to call cousin Betty, you know, I'm just going to lay it all out there and it'll be great, you know. And so you also have to be careful because the sun Uranus has a little bit of fool's gold, this glittering sudden thing that captures you with a spirit of, you know, it's a kind of compulsive, it's like a zephyr or something. It's a sprite. It's a trickster energy that can capture you quickly, only to sort of lead you down a path that is interesting. You may very well learn. Tricksters often teach us amazing lessons, but it will not turn out to be what you expected, or you may be acting compulsively and as a result get to see something that has nothing to do at all with the fulfillment of or satiation of a desire that suddenly appeared out of nowhere. So fool's gold is a real thing with the sun and Uranus. Number 4 would be autonomy by any means. It is exactly the way it sounds. Sun Uranus is just like, I will be free at any cost. I will be sovereign. I will, you know, it's about rights. It's about dignity. It's about selfhood. It's about individuation. It's about granting oneself greater sense of freedom. And, you know, by any means, I will do whatever it takes to be free in a situation. Okay, so there's a great push toward liberty, freedom, emancipation, strong need for solar sovereignty, you know, that kind of thing. So that'll come through really strongly. And number 5 is a weird blend. I put authority, duty, or honor. All 3, they're not exactly the same, but they're related. Authority could be your own or someone else's. Duty could be your own sense of duty to yourself or to someone or something else. And honor would be your own sense of pride or integrity or something like that. And any of those could be inflated or problematic, or they could be, you know, right in the sweet spot. But they may be put into some kind of contrast with freedom. For example, I have a certain amount of authority, and I want to be dutiful and respectful and careful with that authority. You know, it's like with authority comes responsibility kind of thing. And then on the other hand, there's a voice or an urge that's saying, yeah, but you need to be free of all of that stuff in order to create something or do something or say something or reveal how you feel or not feel so pent up, or it's making you sick, it's giving you headaches. So the sense of like authority, respect, responsibility, and the simultaneous need to be free of those pressures or obligations, or someone who has authority and your need or desire to be free of the authority they have over you. And is that a healthy or unhealthy thing? It depends on the context, but you might be wrestling with those tensions. Duty, also, you know, what am I obligated to? I want to be free of those obligations. Yeah, but are you going to wreck your family and have an affair? You know, it's like those tensions can come up with Sun Uranus. You know, people would think, oh, that's Uranus Venus. I want to be sexually free. But no, because it comes back to honor. Oh, am I honoring myself? And many people will do all sorts of different things that are violations of trust or loyalty or virtue, that you know, just because there's this feeling that I need to be free from any expectation over me by anyone or anything. You have to be careful, because this transit, while you may need a dose of greater personal freedom, but this can be the kind of thing where there's like an unhealthy pride and the tendency to justify doing anything you want in the name of personal freedom. So you do have to be a little bit careful about that. So honor, duty, honor, authority, freedom, and the tension between especially the first 3 words and the last one. These are just some themes that I feel like I see over and over and over again, so they're worth mentioning. Now, there's 3 lessons that I think come along with them. Again, I've seen these in my own life. They come around as surely as the record spins. or they come around as surely as the batting order. I actually have to pull the thread of my baseball metaphors all the way through, even though I have no idea why they're relevant. but okay, so you have 3 lessons. They show up in my life. They show up in my client's life. I think they probably show up in most people's lives who pay any attention to astrology. Number 1, I think it's really tough sometimes to know when is it right to pursue something that is about me, my self-interest, and loyalty to someone, to my character, to who I am, to what feels like destiny, calling, purpose, self-respect, self-love. That's important to follow those things. But man, the new age is filled with people preaching that gospel who are just crazy as can be. You know what I mean? Like, how many people out there saying like, it's all about self-respect and doing me and personal empowerment. It's like, you're a jerk. You know, or you are full of yourself, and you've got a gospel of empowerment because it fits nicely into your little narcissistic wound. So, and I've compassion for people. I'm just joking around. But you get what I mean? It's like I can laugh at this because I recognize it in myself. It's like every day there's choices that have to be made. It could be something really stupid. Like, here's a really, really stupid one. We were in the car the other day. It was my new Jeep. And like, had the top off. And I was so happy because the top was off and the air. And I was like, oh yeah, listen to good music. And my wife and kids were in the car. And one of my daughters was like, can you close it? Can you close it? I don't like the wind. And my wife was like, can you just close it? It's really bothering them. And I had this moment where I was like, no. No, because no, damn it. I like the top down, and you can just deal with it for 3 minutes. Because what about me? And and I did put the top back after several minutes of being a jerk, but I did redeem myself and put the top up. But I will tell you that I find that the difference between being true to yourself, don't compromise, don't give yourself away, don't put yourself last all of the time. What do you have to give other people that's authentic if you're not filling your own cup? I mean, that's a real thing. At the same time, man, I like to fill my own cup. You know what I'm saying? It's like, aren't you the same way? At least I feel like a lot of us are, and it's tough. So if I had to say, what is the difference? How can I tell the difference between something that I am doing that is selfish, like it's a selfish, egotistical thing that I'm doing for me, but I'm doing it in the name of personal freedom, versus something that I'm doing that's in service to myself, to my health, to my well-being, to the world, to others. Like, how do you differentiate between something selfish and something that's honestly useful for me and hopefully for others? Especially when it comes to Sun Uranus, which is a lot about individuality. Well, as far as I can tell, the difference is in the disposition of the heart. Like, when I think about myself in that car ride being defiant about having the top down for a couple of minutes before I realized not to, my heart was hard. My resistance was hard. It was not, it's like, you can tell when you're doing something and it's about you, it's not really, there's joy. When you're doing something and it's about you and it's a good thing, there's joy, there's happiness, there's a kind of lightheartedness. And when you're doing something and it's selfish, there's usually justification, resistance, defiance. This is necessary. It's always necessary, damn it. And I mean, maybe sometimes that kind of, okay, like I have to take a stand or something is necessary. But like most of the time, I think you can tell the difference between activities that are individuating in service to your heart and soul and those that are selfish by virtue of just looking at the disposition of your heart, just checking in and being like, hey, am I in a soft-hearted, light-hearted, joyful space? That's the barometer as far as I can tell. So if that's helpful, then great. Number 2 would be that real freedom is patient because it is already free. This might sound weird because I'm not saying that freedom isn't earned or there's not a lot of hard work that goes into being free. But there's something about, like, for example, again, back to my love of baseball, I've been watching the documentary about Derek Jeter called The Captain. And, um, one of the things he said is that from the time he was very little, he had this way of, although a lot of work and devotion and to his craft had to go into it over the years, and there were so many failures and trials and what ifs, and it's not going to work out, and there were like major roadblocks along the way. Something that he says over and over in that video is that I knew it would happen eventually. And so I already felt like I was there. And I don't mean for it to just sound like some kind of cheesy visualization, but it's like there's a component to freedom that, if I'm sitting here in the moment being like, I need to be free, I need to be free, I need to be free, part of the process at some point has to be the decision to be free as a state of being and not purely as an external result. Now, I'm not saying that externals aren't important, right? There's a big difference between someone who's wrongly imprisoned and sitting there not feeling free, and someone who finally gets out of jail after being wrongly imprisoned. Then they're really free. And that distinction is legit. It's right. It's valid. No one's going to, it'd be silly to try to deny that the externals don't have anything to do with freedom. Of course they do. However, I think of people like Nelson Mandela. I think of people who have gone through great trials when it comes to rights or freedom. And one of the characteristics is the feeling or the knowing that I'm already free in my heart, and no one can ever take that away. I think, for example, I remember the first time I read I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. Same thing. It's that there's no denying there's a cage, but there's a vocalization of freedom that is what carries you, it ferries you across the troubled waters. You know what I mean? So one thing that really helps me for Sun Uranus transits, and of course, my struggles have been nothing like the people I'm mentioning. Not at all. My struggles have been like, little farts in the wind comparatively. But one of the things that for example, the first year my daughter was born, she had colic and she was screaming like 70% of the time. And I remember I just had this way, even though I felt imprisoned by her screaming for that whole year of my life, and ended up having to do some like a little bit of trauma work with a therapist over it, actually, because I was having physical trauma responses to the screaming. But one of the things that I found myself doing was constantly saying, there's a day that this will be over. And I'm already there in my heart and my mind. I'm just, in the meantime, I'm having to live through something. I think that it's important that you have strategies like that, because sometimes, Sun Uranus will demand that the freedom happen now, right away. And more often than not, I see people who act impulsively, like it's like they see where they are in 20 steps. From now, they see it, they see the external changes that need to happen, and then they just go barreling forward toward those changes as quickly as possible, and it often just sinks their battleship. Whereas when I see people knowing, okay, there's 20 steps to go to get the externals to where I want to, so that I have a greater sense of freedom, maybe it's getting into having your own business or something. And what I notice is that, the people who have the most sort of success getting through the jungle of all of that like work, are the people who somehow say, I'm already where I want to be. It's just a matter of the dominoes falling down in sequence. I've just got to live through those patiently. But the revolution has already happened because I've seen where I want to go. I know I can get there. I know it's just a matter of the dominoes falling over. So there's a weird way in which, when the spirit of freedom descends upon us like a phoenix, it just comes blazing in, Sun Uranus, and it says, be free. That you have to recognize that image of freedom, it coming into the spirit, grants you a kind of internal freedom instantly, but it'll take the externals sometimes a little while to like show up and conform to that image of freedom, if that makes sense. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. Number 3, evolving does not mean improving. Okay, it's etymology time. So what does the word evolve mean? It means to unfold, open out, expand, roll forth. It also sometimes means to turn or revolve. Now, there is some meaning of to develop by natural processes to a higher state, but that does not move my soul nearly as much as the idea or visual of something unrolling, rolling forth, unfolding, expanding, developing. Why do I think that's important? Because my relationship with my wife and my kids, with astrology, with my guitar, with anything that I love in life evolves. But to me, as it evolves, there is never a sense that it is better. That word feels like a turd in the swimming pool. It's like, no. When I look at my wife and I, every stage is its own little world of our relationship. And there is a sense of the relationship unfolding like this beautiful tapestry. I think the point of life is about, if it's about evolution, it is definitely not about progress. I think there's a big difference. Progress is like, it's like a part of the color scheme or something, but progress is just like it's one way of describing an experience that, as far as I can tell, doesn't have a beginning or end. It's like intimacy itself can be described as an unfolding, as a deepening and an unfolding sort of simultaneously. So why do I say this? Because one of the fool's gold things that can come up with the sun and Uranus is this idea that this will make everything better. This new thing, this new image, this new idea, this greater freedom that I'll get, arranging the externals so that I feel better and clearer and freer and more powerful or something like that. The thing is that the shadow of sort of like Prometheus, the archetype often associated with Uranus, is that there's not, it's like you're worshiping at the altar of progress in the future all the time. And you're always thinking about it getting better and better and better. In which case, that really, it tends to kill intimacy. I remember when I was young, the thought of older couples settling into all these routines, like the kind that I saw my grandparents settling into, it like really disturbed me. I was like, let's see, here we go. Bring the focus back. I was really disturbed by it. And as I get older, I've come to realize, there's stagnation in relationships, but there's also all of these little eddies. And it's like a relationship moves into all of these little familiar patterns, and they change and they keep developing and unfolding over the course of a lifetime. And I think that as I age, there's a greater appreciation, not so much for new things, but for nuance being added to familiar things. And that's just as important as new things, because the seduction of new things is that they are better. And I think that there is room for new things and there's room for better things. But honestly, evolution does not always mean improving. It does not always mean progress. It does not always mean outdoing the old. It often means just adding a wrinkle, adding nuance, or a ray of light that catches off the gem of whatever it is in your life, the relationship or the job or whatever you're in love with, in a different way than you've ever seen before. So sometimes I think it's about seeing things with new eyes. And that's really what we're talking about when we talk about evolving, because then it's about a renewal of the same joy. It's not about, well, I have to become new because the old is bad. And it tends to play into stories about original sin and redemption a lot too. And then life is always being described as a process of like trauma and recovery, or failure and success, or, primitive and ignorant versus enlightened and evolved in that sense. And geez, it's not, it really is, it doesn't really privilege the relational nature of things. If we start thinking about life as a really beautiful web of relationships, and that the point of life is about the unfolding intimacy and nuances of those relationships, as well as new relationships and new things, I think we're closer to the truth. So evolving does not mean improving. Remember that. I think it's helpful for the sun and Uranus. All right, that's what I've got for today. Hope that you found these insights and themes useful. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share your comments in the comment section, and click the notification bell if you want to know when I'm going live or if I have new talk out. You can always find the transcripts of my talks on my website, as you guys know, nightlightastrology.com. Next week, there will be classes, new classes posted. I'll be going into promo mode for those more directly next week. So stay tuned for that. Any questions in the meantime, feel free to email info@nightlightastrology.com. If you have stories this week too, don't forget, #grab. Love to hear from you guys. All right, that's what I've got. Take it easy. Bye.